right, as far as I know, we're still pretty much on track here with the schedule that I had established earlier in the semester, and that we're right here. We're at the week of 9/22, and we're going to chapter 13 right now. All right. So, as far as I can tell, next week will be lab. Then we'll spend a week on chapter 14, which is applets. Then you'll have lab, and then we're going to go into Android for the rest of the semester. That's the plan. I don't see that changing, but we'll see. All right. As far as homework, just so you know, I didn't even realize this, and none of you told me. So I didn't have any of this homework out on Blackboard, so it all is now. But chapter 10, you know what it was. It was to do the three things for the employee, the production worker, and the team worker, etc. And then in chapter 11, we went in and we added the exception handling to the same program. Now, for chapters 12 and 13, you've got your choice. Okay? Cut that down a bit. You can either create a GUI for the thing that you've been working on, but I'm just warning you in advance, that could be quite a bit of work. But if you want to try it, that's fine. I have absolutely no problem with that. Or, if you want, you can create a GUI, or the equivalent of a GUI for Joe's Automotive. All right, you've already got the code for that, the source code, but now you'd be actually creating your own GUI for it. So that's what I'd suggest you do, but if you say no, I'd really rather do it the other, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. All right. What we're going to do right now is we're going to load some software onto Eclipse. And when we get done, we're going to be able to do some GUI stuff. We're going to make a very, very simple program. Literally, it's going to have a couple labels in it, and then a couple text boxes to the side where we'll just input two numbers, and then we'll have a button that will either add the numbers or subtract the numbers, and have another label that'll give the answer. I know it sounds really simple, but it'll give us a chance, and you see some of the intricacies then of doing this stuff in Eclipse, and in particular the package that we're going to use that's called Window Builder. All right, that's not on your machines right now. Now, as I go through it with you, I'm not going to do every step because I've already done it. Does that make sense? And I don't want to undo it because I'm afraid if I do it again, I'll screw it up. I don't want to screw it up. All right, so we'll walk through this. I'm not in any hurry. I still think that there's probably a pretty good chance we'll get this set up. We'll get the code put in. We may be done by break. We might not be. All right, again, this isn't a race, so I don't care. Okay? And you already know what the next assignment is. So if we get done, after an hour, I'm not going to lecture. I'm going to lecture on Thursday for chapter 13. So the rest of the period is lab. All right? Those of you who are in the next class, which is most of you, but I realize not all of you, again, I did that Joe's Automotive program in PHP. So we're going to talk about that one. All right? So same program we're talking about here, I guess. So what I'd like you to do, again, if you haven't done so, and I haven't, but make sure you're in the virtual desktop and start up Eclipse. And notice that when we start it up, I just want you to see this. It's, at least mine, is yours Eclipse Luna also? You should be running the same version I am. That will actually matter in the stuff that we're going to do in a little bit because they'll want to know what version of Eclipse you're using. Okay? If all ends up working, what I'm going to do is just to show you this in advance, I'm going to show you what we're building, and I'm going to run it for you, and just so you can see what it'll look like when we get all done. All right? So it's going to be a simple calculator, okay? Like I said, doesn't look like too much. And the good news is, when you look at this, you go, well, there's enough code. And there is. But I think in all this code that's in here, I wrote less than half of it. All right, most of it was created for me. Okay, and you'll see that again as we go. So the idea is when we run this, hopefully everything will work okay. Okay, real simple. I didn't play with colors. I didn't do anything. So if you want to go nuts with that stuff, knock yourselves out. All right, so 33, 11, add them, subtract them. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's real simple. All right, but what you'll see is the stuff that's in here Again, almost all this stuff that you see in here, that was all built for me automatically. I'm assuming that when you create this, you're going to follow the steps I give you. You're going to use the names I give you. All right? If you don't like them and you want to use your own, you might have some problems when we start putting in the code. All right? I'm just telling you that. What I'll do too is I'll grab this whole folder. I should have done that before, but I'll grab the whole folder for this calculator, and I'm just going to save it out there onto the P drive under today's date. So if that helps you, or if you fall behind or whatever, you should be fine. All right. So what we want to do is we want to install Window Builder. I already have it. So if you look up here, don't do this yet because you don't have the stuff loaded. But what will happen is eventually when we do File and we do New, all right, and we do Project, notice we're going to have a new kind of project in here. All right, that's going to be under Window Builder, SWT Designer, JFace, Java Project. Okay, so there'll be stuff that you don't have right now. All right, and you know, is this going to work? I did it. I tried doing it yesterday, and I really took my time, and I still had it done in a little over half an hour. All right, but I kept saying, well, this could happen. What if somebody had a mistake on this, had a question on this, etc. So I'm assuming that everybody is in Eclipse, all right, and you're all about right here. If you have any program open, please close it, all right? And somebody mentioned this the other day because I said this, but you may or may not have heard it. When you do a file and you go down to Switch Workspace, all right, notice right now that's what yours might say. So by default, that's where it's trying to save things. I don't know why Adrian did that, but he did. But if you want to change it, if that happens, just choose Other and basically choose your desktop. I would recommend creating a folder on the desktop, just call it Java. All right? And then have that be your folder, and then all of your stuff will be saved underneath there. Does that make sense? All right. So again, to start off with, we're going to go and we're going to choose Help. All right. And under Help, I want you to choose Install New Software. All right. And what you do next is a little weird. All right. And how did I learn this? I went and looked. I watched a bunch of videos, literally. All right. So what I'd like you to type in here then, and hopefully when you start typing it, you won't have to put in much. Type in http:// and I don't know why mine is not doing it. There it is. And when you do you see something like this come up on your screen? It might not look exactly like that, but you see something that looks at least somewhat like this. You don't see anything, or what? Who doesn't have it? You all have it. Okay. I want you to choose that first one that you see there, at least the first one on mine, where it says Luna http://download.eclipse.org/releases/Luna. If you have that one. If you don't have that one, you'll have to let me know, because I don't know what will do that. All right, so just right there. All you have to do is basically highlight it. All right. Or maybe double click on it. And then what it should show in here is a bunch of stuff. Right? It might take a second for it to pop in there, but it should pop in fairly quickly. All right, you see you've got a bunch of different options here. I'm going to skip every one of them except for the one almost right in the middle that says General Purpose Tools. And I want you to click the plus sign next to where it says General Purpose Tools. If I'm going too fast, you have to stop me. Not hearing anything, so I'm taking for granted everybody was able to do that okay. All right. Then what I want you to do is just arrow your way down here on the side. And see, the thing is, you've got stuff I don't have because I've already included it. Okay. You see you've got a bunch of stuff here that says, you've got a bunch of stuff in here someplace that says SWT. You all see what I'm talking about? I want you to choose every one of those except don't choose the one, and I'll have to look at one of yours to make sure I'm getting the right thing. I knew that this would come back to bite me. Don't choose the one that says SWT Designer XWT support requires Eclipse WTP/WST. You see that? Do not choose that one. Choose all the other ones. Don't click, don't enter yet. You're not done. Because there's more you have to choose. Alright? So once you've chosen those, narrow down a little bit further. And there's two things down there that say Window Builder. Window Builder Core Documentation and Window Builder XML Core. Alright? Now, if you did choose everything, it really wouldn't hurt, but it would be slow. In other words, it would slow your system down because you're downloading banks of junk you're never going to use. Right. Well, I did it anyway. Then you did it anyway. Right. Looks like there should be 6 items selected. Then click the next button, and it'll take a second because it's loading and it's doing some other stuff for you. All right. When it comes up, you might have to click next one more time, but I want it to come up with a screen that asks you to, if you want to accept the options. All right? And unless you don't want it to work, you better accept the options. All right, and then click next or whatever is there, or finish, whatever is there, and it will ask you if it should restart Eclipse eventually, and just say yes, because you'll have to for that stuff to basically take effect. Good news is we're a quarter of the way done already. All right, so it's not, like I said, it's a one-time shot. You shouldn't have to do this again. Okay. Yes, I am. A lot of dead air, but yes, it's being recorded. So am I right in assuming that it's restarting Eclipse for you right now? Yeah? Okay. And if it isn't, it should be shortly. Okay? Hopefully, once it starts, you're going to have a product overview page that comes up on the screen. Okay? And like I said, I did this at home. I was not connected to the network, so it worked a lot faster than this is right here. Well, you know, I could probably give Terry Prindle really explicit instructions and ask him to do this, but the guy goes so far over and above what he has to do for me anyway that the last thing in the world I want to do is tick him off. Like I said, I see at least Mike here has gotten to the overview page. If you get to that page, you can close it. Yes, you can close that overview page. Should be an X up on the tab there. And then it looks like this then when you get done. Alright? It's what you had before, except now you've got Window Builder loaded. I'm going to wait until everybody says, for lack of better words, they're all caught up. How many people are still waiting for that screen here to come up? Okay. Like I said, we're not in any hurry. So again, I will lecture on Thursday on chapter 13 from your book. Next week will be lab. If we get done with the chapter in an hour, the other part of the period will be lab. I don't know how long it will take. All right, but at least at a minimum, all next week will be lab. In here, I'm going to lecture on chapter 13 of the book. Yeah, that's advanced GUI stuff. It's all the GUI we didn't cover last week. And next week will be lab. The following week we'll go over chapter 14. We're going to do, as a class, we're going to write a simple applet as a class on Tuesday, 2 weeks from today. And then 2 weeks from Thursday, I'm going to lecture on chapter 14. Then you'll have another week of lab, and that's it for this book. You won't have to worry about bringing this humongous book with you anymore. All right? Because all the stuff that we use for Android, I'm just going to give you handouts. All right? Or I'll just make them electronic, whatever. But you'll have something. You still waiting? Teresa, did it come up or are you still waiting? Came up. Okay, so everybody's here, correct? All right, that's good. So, we're going to do a file, new, project. All right, so a file, new, project. And now, hopefully what you see, and it may not look exactly like this, because I've already opened mine and you haven't. But hopefully, if nothing else, you see something that looks like this. Do you have a window builder option now? Okay, yes? Anybody who doesn't? You got it? Good. All right, bless you. So, we'll click there. To open that up, we'll click here. All right, so we're right there. And we want to choose SWT JFace Java Project. Okay? SWT, I believe, is Swing Window Toolkit. Could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. All right? Everybody's cool with this? We're all at the same spot, right? So I'm going to click Next. Does that look familiar? All right, let's just call this Calculator, because that's all it'll be. It's not a complete one, but it's a calculator. All right? Now, you'll notice that it looks similar to stuff you've seen before, but it doesn't look exactly like it. All right? In other words, we don't have a thing that asks us if we want main, etc., and any of that good stuff. Now, you don't have to do this, but if you look up on the screen here, you can click Next, but nothing's going to happen because it just creates that for you automatically. So you can click Next and then Finish, or just click Finish right now. It doesn't matter. Either way will be fine. That's a good point, yeah. Everybody hear what John said? Your default location should be in there in that gray box that's near the bottom of your screen, and you should make sure that it's set accordingly. So now I've got this. All right, so that looks familiar, right? Okay, we're going to do this, and we're doing it a little bit different way than we've done it before. I understand that. All right, so we've got the project name. We've done all the good stuff, so to speak. All right, and now what we want to do is we want to basically come in and we want to create a simple class in here. Okay, now we're going to do it a little bit differently. Trying to follow. I can't read my own writing. This is kind of embarrassing, but okay. Right click, let's see. New project, yeah, did that. Span that, did that. All right. So I'm going to right click on the project we just created. So right click on the word calculator. All right, we're going to choose New. And we're going to go down to the very bottom and choose Other. And again, when you come down here, hopefully you see something that says SWT. Do you see that? I'm hearing some yeses, but I'm not hearing a yes from everybody. So I'm going to do this again. I right mouse clicked on the name of our project, and I chose New. Then I went all the way down to Other. All right? And this is what came up. It's under what? Yeah, yours might look like this right now. So you might have Window Builder, just Window Builder there, and under Window Builder, you've got SWT Designer, and under SWT Designer, you've got SWT, and under SWT, you've got Application Window. Did everybody follow that? Anybody who didn't follow that? Again, we're not in a hurry here. I wouldn't worry about that for right now. All right, I think it'll be all right. Then what you might have to do is go back and create a brand new project. All right, so you might have to go back like we did before and do a file, new, and go to project and find this. And like I said, if worse comes to worse and you can't get it to work, at the end of class, I'll take the one I'm creating right now and I will save it out there on the P drive. And you should be able to drag it into your, whatever folder and just bring it in that way. Now, do you have to do this every time? No. We only have to add this stuff once, but this is the way you'll create a new project. My suggestion, too, is if you do the Joe, is you just stick everything in one class, just to keep it as simple as possible. If you decide you don't want to, okay. But I wanted to make sure you did at least a GUI, all right? And so you could tell people you've done work with Eclipse and you've done work with Window Builder, etc. All right, but I didn't want it to be anything that hopefully would just totally confuse the heck out of people, at least any more than it already has. All right, let me catch back up with you. So new, other, and hopefully we're all down there, okay? And the one that we want to choose is application window. So if you have composite or dialog or shell chosen, please choose application window and click next. Now, this should look somewhat familiar too. It's a little bit different, all right? But it asks, we're using the default package, so don't worry about that. But the name, well, it's calculator is the name of the project, so I'll just call this calculator also. Okay? We don't have to worry about setting any of these other things. The public open, the public static main. You can leave it set to public create contents. I did, and it worked fine. You must have a calculate package in here. I don't know if you created it or what, but it shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter. All right. You'll notice too, it says the use of the default package is encouraged. For what we're doing right now, it's fine. All right. We could browse, and I could, I've got a package. If I've got something underneath here, I could create one too. That's fine. Then just click finish. Now, this is what. So remember, the entire app was somewhere around 140 lines. So 50 of those lines have already been created for us. And the good news is, you go, well, that's still 90 lines. We've got to create something about 10, 15 lines of code. Then we're just going to copy it because we're going to do the thing for the plus, all right? And then we're going to copy it to the minus. So what I'm saying is there's not much code to type. All right, so we've now created a simple class. Do you see these three tabs in here? Do you all have a source tab, a design tab, and a bindings tab? Do you all have those? Let me just tell you, at least from what I can tell, that when you're in one of the tabs, so if you're in the source tab, that's where we are now. It shows you your code. All right? When you're in the design tab, it shows you your GUI. But if you're in your source tab and you put some code in there and the code is is got an error in it, it doesn't let you switch back to design. You understand what I'm saying? Well, that's a pain in the ass. So I got real good at commenting stuff out yesterday when stuff wasn't working. I'm just telling you that in case it happens to you. You can go back and tell it to reparse it, but then all it does is it just runs it again, and it didn't work the first time, so I don't know how it's supposed to magically work the next time. But I want you to click the tab that says Design. It says Opening Design Page, and ideally when you get done, your GUI is going to be in the right-hand side. Say, well, it's there, but I can't see it. Well, then we can shrink this stuff down a bit. There's the GUI. See it? All right. I can shrink any of these things down that I need to shrink down in order to make this bigger. All right. And you see it? Everybody's cool with that? All right. All right. So what we've done so far is we went in, we added Window Builder, we created a new project the quote new way unquote, and now what we have here on our screen, okay, is we have our first GUI app. There's nothing in it yet. We could run it. It won't do anything, but we could actually run it if we wanted to now. Now, if you take a look at the stuff that's over here, that's in the middle, there's a bunch of different things here. Well, the one that you're going to work with exclusively in here is the one that says Controls, which is about halfway down. So you might want to arrow down so you can see it. All right. I think everybody'd agree, if you look on your screen right now, on my screen, or if you look up here, or if you look on your own screen, right now there's nothing here that's selected, so you have no properties. But kind of like we did in VB, if I go and just click on the form itself, there's the stuff that's created that's related to the form. Okay, so all I did was single click on this form itself, and now it filled in my properties window. So if you could please do that. As always, even though it might not seem like it, there's a method to my madness. Just single click on it, and then your properties window should show. There should be stuff in there. All right. The name of this is actually Shell. It names it that by default. I'm not sure why. Is there a story behind it? Guess what? Don't care. But what I want to do is, now that we've got that selected, I want to click this down arrow here and go almost all the way down to the bottom and find where it says text. And right now, it says SWT application. I want to change that to calculator. I will tell you, just so you know, I will tell you, this is quirky. If you double click on it too much, it just gets hung. I don't know why. All right, so I changed it to calculator. Please look up on the screen right here. See where it says SWT? I hit enter. All right, make me a liar. But it's going to, eventually it's going to change. All right, and that is the right thing. I know that it is. All right. There, now it says calculator. Okay? So it might take a second or so for it to catch back up. Now, I'm going to draw something on the board just because some of you are much faster at this than others are. And I realize I'm going to draw the whole interface with you, but I realize that some of you are, come on, Mom, what's next? What's next? What's next? Etc. Okay? So, this is what our interface is going to look like. And if you're watching at home, this isn't going to help you much. Right now, it looks like this, and at the top it says calculator. All right? This is what we want to do right now, all right, is we want to add a label here. So that'll be a label. Don't rename them. Don't do anything with them. But if you want to drag this stuff out, you can. A label, a text box, right? I think it says text field. I don't remember. Text something, but maybe it just says text right there. So these are the two we're using. So label, text, label, text, button, button, and it'll be a longer one when we get done with it, but label. That's going to be our entire interface right there. So you can draw that. Please do not change the name of anything. All right? Don't jack with it at all. Just draw your interface if you would. Now it works really weird. All right. Typically, if you click on it, then you can drag. Okay. And like I said, I know I've worked with this before, and it's a pain. I've tried using 2 or 3 of these different GUI editors, and none of them work all that well. Laura just said it's kind of touchy. I would agree with that. All right. And it really doesn't like it. See what I did with my button? All right. You're best off not even trying to move that. All right. You're best off if you create a button and it's not all the way in here, just get rid of it and create it again. I tried moving it yesterday. It was that a pain. So button. Button. And finally, one more label. Not real pretty, not real anything, but it will be functional when we get done. No, the thing is, you've been spoiled because I'll give Microsoft its due as far as using Visual Studio. It's much easier and it's much more intuitive than this. All right. I'm sure there are shortcuts for this. I'm sure there are better ways than the way I'm showing you. But I know this works. I've done it already, and it's worked, and there's really was not a problem with it. All right. Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change the name of these 2 text boxes. All right. So notice right there. If I go all the way up to the top, it's called variable. See that? So I single-clicked on the first label to highlight it. In my properties window, I went all the way up to the top where it says variable, and I want you to please call this first number. Little F-I-R-S-T, capital N, little U-M-B-E-R. All right? First number. Anybody want to guess what we're going to call the next one? You're really close. All right? So that's first number, and the next one will be second number. So we've got those 2 things done. Now let's click on the first label, and it's called LBL new label, which is kind of a stupid name. So let's change it from LBL new label to, how about LBL first number? That's the variable name. That's not the text that goes in there. Only for Travis. Now, if you want to, we can go down where you put the text, because now it just says new label, which doesn't, do very much for anybody. And we can change that to first number. First number with a colon. But if we do that, if you look up on the screen here, now it doesn't all show because I didn't make my label wide enough. So I've got to move this stuff. I got to move that over, so I can move that over, so I can widen this out. And widen that one out. You see, you do get the little lines like you do like you get in Visual Studio. They're not nearly as nice. You can play with alignment. Again, I don't care about that stuff. So we've got LBL first number, and then the second one is going to be LBL second number. And the text for that one will be second number. So ideally, at least, that's right now what your interface looks like. Okay? Again, if you want to, you can write justify this stuff. There's all sorts of stuff we can do. Again, as I said, I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I don't really care. All right. Yeah. Where are you talking about? Oh, I believe that that means that by default, I think, because you can do these internationally, so I think that's a code for left to right. All right. Is there anybody who doesn't have any of, that isn't caught up now? So what we're going to do next, if you look up here, is I want us to at least get the interface built before we go on a break. All right. So let's click on the first button here that says New Button. All right. And this is going to be our button to add. So instead of calling it BTN New Button, we're going to call it plus lowercase button with a capital B. So plus button, all in lowercase except the B is capitalized in button. So the first one is plus button, and the next one will be minus button. All right. The other thing, if you look up on the screen here, after you put in plus button, I'm going to go down here where the text is. I'm going to go down here where the text is, right there, and I'm just going to change that because all I want in there for the text is just a plus sign. All right. So that's what it should look like when you get done. So that's plus button with just a plus sign. This one will be called minus button, and we'll put a minus sign in there. No. We got the word button on the end, which sends the signal that it's a button. All right. So now this is what the interface looks like. All right, so the only thing that's left is this last label that's right here. And if you look up on the screen for a second, that label is going to have the answer. We're going to make that bigger. So we're going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to go and I'm going to drag on there to make it wider. Then I'm going to pull down on it to make it longer. So it looks kind of like this. That may not even be big enough, and I don't care right now. We can always adjust it later. All right, did that make sense to everybody, what I asked you to do? Now, we don't want to fill in the code. We don't want to fill in the contents of that label until the program runs. Bless you. We don't want to fill in the contents of the label until the program runs. So we're not going to put any text in there, but we are going to change the name of that label. And we're going to kind of call it again what it is, which is answer label. Little word answer, A-N-S-W-E-R, capital L, little A-B-E-L. All right, so make that answer label. Yes, we're going to change the size of the font, but not yet. Like I said, I'm more concerned right now with getting the interface built. I've got about 18 steps in here, and we're right now on about step 14. All right, so that's what's left. Okay, but steps like 16, 17, and 18 are adding code. So we'll do that, but we're just not going to do it right yet. All right. As Mike just said, we want this to appear to be a little bit bigger. So what I want you to do is make sure that the answer button, or I'm sorry, the answer label, I should say, not answer button, I'm sorry, the answer label is the one that's highlighted, and go down and find font. All right, and then click the ellipsis that you see here, and you can see what comes up. We're going to just keep it real simple, so I'm going to make it a system font, bold, and let's make it like, I don't know, 14 point. If you don't like that, you can always go back and change the size and make it bigger or smaller later. It's not a problem. And after you've got that, just click OK. All right. Again, I made it smaller than I did when I did it at home. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. Don't worry about the text that's in there. That's going to change anyway. So we've renamed all of our controls. We've added all of our buttons. Everybody cool with that? Okay. I'd like to keep going and see if we'll stop at 2. So somebody just stop me at 2 o'clock, all right? But we'll see between now and then what we can get in. Now, think about this. Look up on the screen here. This isn't a hard question, and it's not a trick question. Where do we want to add code? The plus and minus buttons. That makes sense? We're also going to put a little bit of exception handling in here, just a little bit. So if you put something non-numeric, the program will catch it. All right? We're not going to write our own exception handler. We could do that, but we're not going to. We're just going to let the system catch it for us. Yes. It's going to be the same kind of thing. You're going to get error messages down here like you got before. All right. So the first thing that and it doesn't matter which one we do first, but the plus one's the first button. So let's double click that button. All right. Now notice that we're up to 90 lines of code. Okay. A bunch of this stuff has been written for us. I'm going to have you do some stuff right now. And when you do some of this stuff, you're going to get your screen is going to get red because we're going to have to move some stuff around and do a few other things. Okay? So when we start doing this, if it doesn't appear to perfectly work, don't let that bother you. Again, I'm going to give you the code when we get all done. I promise. You'll have all the code. All right? All right. If we look in here and we see all the stuff that's in here, all right, you may or may not have noticed, but at least with mine, when I double clicked on it, you see where my cursor is? It's on the widget selected event that's right there. And you know what? That's actually a good sign because pretty close to right in there is where we're going to want to put our code. All right? Almost exactly there. All right? So we're going to do that in just a second. All right? So right underneath this, and I tried removing that word override, and it appeared the system didn't like it. So I put it back in, and then it appeared that it did like it. All right, so just leave it in. If it bugs you and you really want this to be on a line by itself, the curly there, then go ahead and do that. All right, because that's usually how I code. I'm more concerned with getting this to work. So right here on mine, I've got a new line 75. Everybody see what I just did? So what we want to do is we want to create 2 new variables. And they're going to be the variables that are going to hold those values that we put into the text boxes. All right? So I'm not even going to initialize them. I'm just going to say int number 1 and int number 2. Okay? So that's what I've got right now. You notice I get the yellow stuff. That's the signal that I get from Eclipse telling me that I've got 2 variables that I've created that I'm not using to do anything. Okay? Now we're going to put in, like I said, just a little bit of exception handling. Not a lot, but just a little bit. So, anybody remember when we put in exception handling, what kind of block is it in? Try catch. See, he redeemed himself from after saying third label. and third number. All right, so we're going to put in a try statement here, and it's a single line. Number 1 equals, oops, big I, integer dot parse int first number dot get text. That's all of it right there. Whoops, I don't know what that's doing there, but that's it. And as Travis mentioned, when you have a try, you better have a catch. Okay? So let me move this down a little bit, if I can. Okay. If for some reason this doesn't work, we're going to do a message dialog and do an open error. And you may or may not remember I told you this at the beginning. This thing itself is referred to as shell. That's the name it gets by default. That's the name of our form, is shell. So I'm going to say shell error bad first number. All right? With a semicolon on the end. And there's no sense if we have an error like that going on, so I'm just going to return. All right? Right now it's giving me an error. It says finally expected. I'm not putting a finally in there, and it's going to work. All right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's what it is. We have to tell what it's catching. Thank you. We want to catch, we're just going to do a regular exception here. And I tried playing with different words here, but it seemed like it liked exe, but it didn't like much of anything else. All right? Now, why am I getting that error? Because it's looking to see, it says, where the hell is message dialog? So notice if I put my mouse over it, it gives me a quick fix. And I'm just going to choose the first one that says import message dialog. And that went away. All right? I don't know why I've got getting that one because I didn't before. Create local variable shell. That's what it's called. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay? The top one. But shell don't do anything for it. Now, if you look right here, if everybody would look up on the screen right here, that's going to handle the first number. Does that make sense? Hopefully you agree that we want to do the exact same thing for the second number. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to type. So I'm going to grab everything here in my try block, everything. All of it till right there. The entire try and the entire catch. Not this thing at the bottom because that's when that says I'm finished with this. So I want to grab all that. I want to copy it to the clipboard. I want to hit enter, and I want to paste it in. Then I got to change it from number 1 to number 2, from first number to second number, all right, and from bad first number to bad second number. Does all that make sense? Oh, this one? Okay. And don't worry if you get some stuff that right now looks a little weird. It's like, why am I getting this error, etc. It's going to all work out. Well, let's see. There's try. There's catch. All right, I don't think I need this one. Yes. Okay. But for now, let's get rid of that. So there's my try. There's my catch. Is that what you're saying? All right. So right now, and I didn't have this problem the other night with this thing with shell, but I'm going to just quickly look up in my program here. Protected shell SHL calculator. I might have to. What's that? No, I might have to change where it says shell to that. I'm going to check that out right now. I didn't do this yesterday, and it worked just fine. That says calculator. So I'm going to change this to that same thing. Okay. So play computer here for a second, all right? We've got, these are the two numbers, and I can put a little comment there. Never hurts to put comments in, right? All right. First number, input. Second number, input. So in other words, number 1 is what we're going to put into the first text box. Number 2 is what we're going to put into the second text box. So we're telling it to go out to first number, which was our first text box, grab the text that's in there. You use get text. If we wanted to put something in there, it would be set text. All right, so we're using get text. And we're attempting then to parse it into an integer. If for some reason it doesn't work, we're just going to say you put in a bad first number. Then we do the same exact thing with the second number. Syntactically, logically, does that make sense to everyone? Now, would everyone agree, as far as we can tell, that we're done with our plus sign? Would you agree with that? All right. So what I'm going to do is everything that's underneath this line, everything that's under public, void, widget selected, everything starting in my line 76, I'm going to highlight all of it. And for me, it looks like it's about 15 lines. All right. I'm going to highlight all of it like that. Okay. And I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. Okay. Then I'm going to go back into design mode, and I'm going to double click on my minus button. Now I've got the same thing. And I want to paste in what I just put in, but all those pluses have to be minuses now. And I can tell already I skipped the line, but that's okay. We'll get that fixed in a minute. What's that? 107. Yours says shell? Yeah. And what about it? I don't, well then I would go up to the top and see what yours is called up here. Up right near the top, where you've got your constructor. Okay. I don't know. I mean, usually it makes variable names in blue. Okay. So I'm coming back down here, and I'd already done the first one right here. Now I'm coming down to the second one. I've got the same stuff, all right, but I can already tell that I missed something. Anybody have any idea what I missed? We never did the operation, did we? We never did the addition or the subtraction. That would be kind of nice because, you know, we want to display that. All right, so what I should have done is by the first one that we had here, and I've got to give you the right line because I goofed this up big time yesterday. All right, after you return, you've got this curly, and after that curly, hit enter, and we'll put in 2 lines of code. Int answer equals number 1 plus number 2. Oops, I got to put a 1 there. Number 1 plus number 2. All right. Then answer label dot set text. The answer is plus answer. Oops, I don't know how the hell I just did that, but I did something. Answer, and you got to spell label right too. Okay? After you've done that, all right, and I'm not going to move it, but after you've done that, highlight those 2 lines, paste them in down below where the other stuff we just put in, but change it to answer equals number 1 minus number 2. All right? So in other words, grab this text right here, copy it to the clipboard, come down to the other one that we just added, and right here, paste it in. But instead of saying plus, have it say minus. All right? Now, I'm going to save because it'd be a good time to do that, and I'm going to run, and I may get an error, and it's okay if I do. Looks like I didn't. 33, 22, plus the answer is 55, minus the answer is 11. All right? Now, I'm going to take for granted that with at least one of you, you fell behind or something didn't work. That's just natural. All right? So, now I'm going to show you this. Again, I'm going to copy this, and I'll put it out there for everybody. I'll do it during the break, but I want you to see this. If you go out to here, http://java.martincarlisle.com. All right, everybody see that? Now it's plenty big. This is Martin Carlisle's site. All right, if you go down to his site, and if you scroll down to the very bottom, that's the presentation that I just did with you. He did it on YouTube. So there it is on YouTube. It's 8 minutes long. But I tried keeping it and making it unbelievably slow because I thought it would make sense to do it like this. I watched a bunch of these. To me, this was the one that made the most sense. He walks you through everything that I just showed you. All right, and that YouTube address, of course it's going to be too big now, is here. All right, and if you go out to his website, the first one, not only can you click on that to get to the YouTube, but his source code is out there also. All right. So I'm going to take the one that I've done. They're both the same. I did it yesterday too. And I'm going to just do the one that we just did. I'm going to grab that whole folder, and I'm going to take the folder, copy it over to the in-class folder with today's date on it. So if you fell behind, or if you think I'm just kind of confused, I would suggest bringing up YouTube and watching this 8-minute long video. All right? Really, I think after you've done it once, you're going to go, this really isn't that hard. The only thing that you don't like, and many of you have already commented, and I agree, is this is not the same IDE that you've been working with in Visual Studio. It's quirky because it's different. It has its own shortcuts. It's got its own way of doing things. And you're getting this explained to you by somebody who doesn't have much more experience with it than you do. Yes. If you got an error, period, let me tell you errors that you could get. All right? If it says it doesn't exist, what I would do, because he explains that in here, that some of the errors that you could get. All right? But, so this is all the code right here. This is all the code. That's everything that we've either put in or generated or whatever. So I'm going to save all of it. I'm going to save my folder, and I'm going to save the code file out there. But what he says is if you had a problem with the answer label, all right, then when you created it originally, this right here is almost down. It's almost at the bottom of your screen. He said drag it up so it's right underneath the other labels. That's one of the things that he suggests. All right. So again, I'm going to save this right now. Okay, so I'm going to go and save this. So this is calculator, not calculator, calculator.java. All right. And I'm going to go and save this right now off to the P drive. class. I'm going to create a folder with today's date on it, which is 9/23. So 09-23-2014. All right. So there's the calculator.java. There's that file. All right. And was it called calc? He called it calc. So I got to change the name from calculator to calc. All right. So that's the first thing. And then I'm going to save these things, which have got the YouTube URL and his website. I'm going to save that to the same place. We'll call it just calculator info.txt. All right, so that's done. That's out there. Then finally, I'm going to come back, so let me close that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to grab, since this is open, I'm going to close everything. So I'm going to do a file, close all, so the whole thing's closed. All right. Then I'm going to go in on my desktop where my Java folder is, and there's the calculator I just created, 124 is when we started it. So I'm going to copy that, and again, I'm going to push that out onto the P drive. Paste. And the only other thing I want to do is I want to change that to the name he used, which was just calc. So everybody see this? Out on the in-class folder, for the folder with today's date is his source code, the URL that'll get you both to his presentations and to his source code and the YouTube channel, and then what I just created. So it's all out there. Again, what I would suggest is if you had problems with it, go back and watch his video. Don't do anything. Don't follow along. Watch his video. It's 8 minutes. Then go back to the beginning of his video. You've already done a bunch of it. All right? Because a bunch of it is just setting the thing up to work. All right? So when you look right here, let me bring this up. So this is his video, but notice as I start running it here, okay, there he has you go and load the stuff that I mentioned to you. All right, so now we're a minute in, we're still playing with it. All right, it's not until close to 2 minutes where he has you click that design button. All right, and then you start to have the GUI made. Then he very slowly builds the GUI for you. And he explains all the code that goes in there. All right? So again, I would strongly suggest, I got to stop that because now I'm taping over myself with him, but I would strongly suggest that you go back and take a look at that. All right? So take a break. The rest of the period is yours, and like I said, those of you who are in the next class, we're going to go over the Joe's example. I'm going to give you a hard copy, and I'm going to give you an electronic copy of it. Well, we'll talk about that in the class today.